This is my presentation on the flipped classroom method. What is it? How can teachers use it? And what are the benefits and concerns? So what is a flipped classroom? A flipped classroom is an educational technique that consists of two parts: interactive group learning activities inside the classroom and direct computer-based individual instruction outside the classroom. This quote was found from one of our assigned readings called The Flipped Classroom, a Survey of the Research. On the left, you can see a picture that represents the difference between a traditional classroom and a flipped classroom. These are some of the theoretical frameworks for the flipped classroom. The first one comes from Vygotsky, which shows the importance of cooperative learning from the zone of proximal development. Topping and Ailey shows the importance of peer-assisted learning and having the opportunity to collaborate with other students to complete coursework. And Smith and McGregor showed that social independence theory, which shows that the ways that students interact with each other depends on their goals and interests. The development of the theoretical framework helps to clarify your implicit theory in a manner that is more clearly defined. It helps you consider other possible frameworks and to reduce biases that may sway your interpretation. One of the statistics from one of our assigned readings that I found to be very interesting is that 64% of students in a flipped classroom tend to surpass the average scores in a traditional classroom. I also need to note that this statistic does not apply to all flipped classroom situations, and that student success in a flipped classroom depends on many factors. Some concerns and downfalls of a flipped classroom include that it is a concern that parent-driven students would still struggle to complete assignments. Changing a classroom learning environment does not necessarily change a child's motivation. So if they aren't motivated to learn in class, then they're not going to be motivated to learn at home. Many students also have limited access to technology, so having to complete online notes from home with no internet access would be very difficult. Many students also prefer enrolling in and paying for in-person classes because they can't self-regulate from home, so having to complete lecture notes at home would be hard for a student who already struggles to do their work. The argument of paying for a professional to teach in person and being forced to learn online has also been made. And the flipped classroom is only as successful as the teacher makes it. A main concern is quality of content. So when teachers and professors use content from others instead of making their own, students may feel confused by different learning styles, and the quality of content can also be lower. My personal experiences and thoughts with the flipped classroom method are as follows. So my experience, I was in a flipped classroom in my Algebra 1 class in 7th grade. I personally really benefited from the flipped classroom model because I struggled with math, and I felt like having my teacher to answer questions in class made it a lot easier for me to learn. And my teacher also made her own lecture videos and gave us printed notes with fill in the blanks, which helped lessen our workload and also made sure that we were focusing on the topics that she wanted us to learn. And then my thoughts are that I think the flipped classroom model can be very beneficial for students if it's done correctly, but it can also fail miserably if it's done poorly. Like mentioned before, it really does depend on the efforts of the students and the teachers as well, and making sure the students have the correct resources to succeed. Technology also needs to be provided, I think, because there are a lot of students who don't have access to internet or don't have their own devices at home, so making work required online at home would be very difficult for students who don't have internet access. I also think that teachers need to either make their own lecture videos or choose quality videos that are similar, because as mentioned before, I feel like it can be very confusing and misleading for students if they have to learn from different teaching styles. And then I do believe that notes should be guided since students fill them out at home. As previously mentioned, I think that it helps students stay on track and it helps them understand what they need to focus on the most. And I also think that post-lecture quizzes should be encouraged, just so that way the students and the teacher can make sure that students are staying on track and that they're understanding what they're learning at home. And then these are the resources from some of the statistics and some of the definitions that I got from our readings. Thank you.